Hello everyone, welcome back to a very long time off since the last time that I and Lyra Pug came to talk to you with a bit of a preview for Now Very Beast, the Iron Maiden podcast that I have not recorded for in 4 months. It's not good. It's not good at all. Life is very busy, and nobody pays me to do this, so sadly other things will tend to take precedence. And I know that's bad news, and Eddie's going, no, unhappy. But the reason we're showing this, Eddie, is yes, we're talking about Live After Death. These are just a few of the many copies of Live After Death that I have. When you listen to the episode, or actually when you listen to the bonus episode regarding Live After Death, the album itself, I talk about just how many times you need to buy Live After Death, and just how many times I've bought this. It's the greatest live album ever recorded, and I shared something that I had mentioned at John's memorial service when I talked about how many copies of Live After Death I found in his house, and how many I knew that he had been like with him when he purchased, plus all these other ones, because he and I were very much like-minded. This record is so good that you'd like go buy a copy if you didn't have it. You know, if you were out somewhere, you're like, oh, I'm going for a long drive. I don't have Live After Death with me. Well, better get it. Better have an extra one around. And so this really seems sort of ridiculous. You know, some of this stuff is John's, some of it is mine. And the episode itself, we're talking about the singles, of course. This is the First 10 Years series. So it's the singles from the Live After Death album. A little odd that they add singles for a live album, at least to my mind. They put out Running Free, using the only time that they would ever actually have photo on the cover. I think later on they did a re-release of a live track for Clive Burr for a fund for his medical care, and I'm pretty sure that one had a photo on it. But up until that point, this was it. They had a Ross Alphin photo on here, and the flip side of it, the much nicer looking cover would have to go to Run to the Hills. And you're saying, what about this cover exactly says Run to the Hills? And the answer is nothing, actually. There are hills. I guess that's about it. It really looks like a cover for Phantom of the Opera, which is what should have been the A side of this single. Instead they put it on the B. Kind of a weird choice. But I mean, just a gorgeous painting, particularly if you can get the full thing, folded out and you can see both sides of it. It really is a gorgeous piece by Riggs, even if it doesn't really have anything to do with Run to the Hills, except that there are some hills in there. So, sort of weird. They actually put the back of the painting on the back of the CD, at least my German-made copy of Iron 07, probably just because it was better looking than the photo was. But I've bought this record so many times over the years, because that fourth side of the vinyl, when you would buy the CD, this is a 1995 Castle re-release. They put out these great re-releases with this little piece of paper. You know what this is called? This is called an obi. Apparently it's a big thing in Japan. Who knew? But this is called an obi. And they slide onto the thing so that actually when you're looking at your CDs from the top, or when you're flipping through them in the store, when they still had CDs in stores, you can see the title. Good stuff about all of these. But this is pretty much just a re-release of the original CD that came out in 1985. And you can see right there, it's only 12 tracks. And in point of fact, Aces High is track number 1, as opposed to all the later versions of the album, where you would get Churchill's speech on its own track for number 1, then Aces High would be on 2. Not that I can imagine anyone would ever listen to just Churchill's speech. But yeah, so because of that little oddity about not putting the fourth side, the extra fourth side of vinyl. So what I'm talking about here, and you'll hear me talk about it if you have the patience to listen to the episode. This is the actual vinyl. I didn't have the vinyl. This is a reissue. Didn't have this back in the day. And there were 4 sides to this because, of course, 2 slabs of vinyl. What else are you going to have? You can't have 3 and you can't have 5. Such a gorgeous layout on this. But that 4th side, all the stuff that they did at Hammersmith, wasn't on the tape. And it may have been on some versions of the tape. I remember having Live After Death on cassette first. I probably still have it somewhere, but I wasn't able to put my hands on it. And it was one of those really long play tapes. Do you ever get those where it had like 2 albums on one tape? And they were like so thin, you know, you could read the paper through the tape because it was so long, and they would break really easily, which is probably why that thing's in a trash bin somewhere. So I may have had all the tracks on that tape, but I definitely didn't have it on the CD. And so you'd have to keep getting it. So then, as I said, in 1995, they put out these special tracks, Castle Records, one of the best sets ever that they put out, where they'd have, you know, a 2 CD flippy thing. Remember these? But this is a bonus disc, and the bonus disc had the B-sides, the stuff that I'm going to talk about in the episode. It still didn't have that 4th side. It was crazy. It wasn't until 1998 that they finally put out a CD that had a second disc that had just those 5 songs. I know, it's ridiculous. What can I say? I had the VHS. This is the DVD re-release of it. I still do have the VHS somewhere. Not sure exactly where. I did find in John's things something that I can tell about this. Well, first off, let me tell you what it is. This is a video EP. One of these strange things you probably never even knew existed. Video EP that it's sort of broken out here. This is just a short thing. They kicked off their tour in Poland. They were possibly the first Western band to go behind the curtain and go to the Eastern Bloc and bring their whole setup, that whole massive World Slavery stage setup that they brought there and put on that show. And this is all about them doing so, just a little behind the scenes footage of them playing footy with some of the guards and stuff, and just the whole thing, and what a big deal it was for these people that they were getting this show. And Rod Smallwood later commented, he's saying, you know, this was like the first concert that some of these people had ever seen. Imagine seeing World Slavery Tour. That's your from there. Just like After Death, it's downhill after that. If this is the first live album that you listen to, I have bad news for you. It's never going to get this good again, sadly. But why I thought it was funny to find this. John for a while worked at Stop and Shop, the grocery store, the street. They had a video store for a while when there was a point in the 80s and 90s where, you know, video cassettes were everywhere. You know, stand-up comedians would do jokes about these. You'd get them at the dentist office. I mean, there really was just a license to print money. And so they had a video store, and John worked there. And which I always, you know, envied that he worked there, because he just put on movies all day and things like that. We had a few friends who had that. We're lucky to have that gig. Seth was as well. And what it really was for people who worked there, or probably at any video store, was a license to order movies that no one else would care about but you, which is how he almost certainly got this video EP that couldn't have been easy to find. And he had them order it, knowing full well the only people who were ever going to rent it were him and me. And, that's what we did. And then eventually, when they finally realized that the video is not worth anything because nobody's renting it except him and me, they sell it used, and they sold it to him. So that's why I think it's funny that it's in this little video case here. This is almost certainly the copy that he got back in the day, and it would have been cut up and put into a little case. People who don't know VHS don't know what I'm talking about here, but when you go to rent a movie, they often would be in different cases than what they originally came in. And that's Live After Death, man. I mean, I don't know what to say about it. It's so amazing, and maybe that's one of the reasons it took me kind of a while to bring this episode to ground. Back in April, I actually did record the first piece of it, which I ended up just sort of rambling on more about Live After Death than about, the single that it was based on, or that I was actually doing the episode on. And so that stuff I took and used to create this bonus episode. So the bonus episode is pretty much what I had recorded back in April, right after I did the last episode. And just last night I sat down finally and finally got over the yips. Went back to recording again. So I hope you do listen. I hope you like it. We've got some exciting stuff happening. It's a really exciting time for Maiden. It's August right now, first week of August, so we're going to have an episode out every Friday this month to wrap up the first 10 years series. And then that will culminate in the final Friday, or the first Friday of September, is going to be the release date of the brand new Iron Maiden album, Senjutsu, which is the 17th Iron Maiden studio album. It's coming out, and my buddy Paul, who just called me while we were recording this here, and I had to miss his call, we're going to try and get together and do a live episode. So it'll be the first episode with a guest. Paul and I have been talking about doing some episodes, maybe doing some reviews of the albums and things like that. But Paul's going to be there with me, and we're going to listen to the record, maybe live, and just record our first impressions. So do a little listening party. So keep tuned for that, and up the irons.